You can run the application by selecting Start Debugging from the Debug menu. If it prompts you to enable debugging, just click the OK button. When you do this, Visual Studio compiles the application, uses an application server called EaseExpress to run it, and opens a web browser to request the application content. It can take Visual Studio some time to run the project for the first time, and when the process is complete, you will see the results shown as below. When you are finished, be sure to stop debugging by closing the browser window or by going back to Visual Studio and selecting Stop Debugging from the Debug menu. As you have just seen, Visual Studio opens the browser to display the project. You can select any browser that you have installed by clicking the arrow to the right of the EaseExpress toolbar button and choosing from the list of options in the web browser menu. In ASP.NET Core MVC, controllers are just C# classes, usually inheriting from the Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.MVC.Controller class, which is the built-in MVC controller base class. Each public method in a controller is known as an action method, meaning you can invoke it from the web via some URL to perform an action. The MVC convention is to put controllers in the controllers folder, which Visual Studio created when it set up the project. I have removed all but one of the methods, changed the result type and its implementation, and removed the using statements for unused namespaces. These changes don't produce a dramatic effect, but they make for a nice demonstration. The default MVC configuration means that the request will be handled using the index method, known as an action method or just an action, and the result from the method will be sent back to the browser. Notice that Visual Studio has directed the browser to port 44383. You will almost certainly see a different port number in the URL that your browser requests because Visual Studio allocates a random port when the project is created. If you look in the Windows taskbar notification area, you will find an icon for EaseExpress. This is a cut-down version of the full Ease application server that is included with Visual Studio and is used to deliver ASP.NET Core content and services during development. Understanding routes, as well as models, views, and controllers, MVC applications use the ASP.NET routing system, which decides how URLs map to controllers and actions. A route is a rule that is used to decide how a request is handled. When Visual Studio creates the MVC project, it adds some default routes to get you started. You can request any of the following URLs, and they will be directed to the index action on the home controller. So, when a browser requests http://your-site/ or http://your-site/home, it gets back the output from home controller's index method. You can try this yourself by changing the URL in the browser. At the moment, it will be http://localhost:/44383/, except that the port part may be different. If you append home or /home/index to the URL, you will see the same Hello World result from the MVC application. Rendering web pages, the output from the previous example wasn't HTML, it was just the string Hello World. To produce an HTML response to a browser request, I need a view, which tells MVC how to generate a response to a request from a browser. Creating and rendering a view, the first thing I need to do is modify my index action method. When I return a view result object from an action method, I am instructing MVC to render a view. I create the view result object by calling the view method, specifying the name of the view that I want to use, which is my view. If you run the application, you can see MVC trying to find the view, as shown in the error message displayed. This is a helpful error message. It explains that MVC could not find the view as specified for the action method and also shows where it looked. Views are stored in the Views folder, organized into subfolders. Views that are associated with the home controller, for example, are stored in a folder called Views/Home. Views that are not specific to a single controller are stored in a folder called Views/Shared. Visual Studio creates the home and shared folders automatically when the web application, model view controller, template is used and puts in some placeholder views to get the project started. Set the name field to my view.cshtml and click the Add button to create the view. Visual Studio will create the view/home/myview.cs HTML file and open it for editing. The initial content of the view file is just some comments and a placeholder. The new contents of the view file are mostly HTML. The exception is the part that looks like this. This is an expression that will be interpreted by the Razor View engine, which processes the contents of views and generates HTML that is sent to the browser. This is a simple Razor expression, and it tells Razor that I chose not to use a layout, which is like a template for the HTML that will be sent to the browser. I am going to ignore Razor for the moment and come back to it later. To see the effect of creating the view, select Start Debugging from the Debug menu to run the application. Adding dynamic output. The whole point of a web application platform is to construct and display dynamic output. In MVC, it is the controller's job to construct some data and pass it to the view, which is responsible for rendering it to HTML. One way to pass data from the controller to the view is by using the ViewBag object, which is a member of the controller base class. ViewBag is a dynamic object to which you can assign arbitrary properties, making those values available in whatever view is subsequently rendered. I provide data for the view when I assign a value to the ViewBag.greeting property. The greeting property didn't exist until the moment I assigned the value. This allows me to pass data from the controller to the view in a free and fluid manner, without having to define classes ahead of time. I refer to the ViewBag.greeting property again in the view to get the data value, which shows the corresponding change to the myview.cs HTML file. The addition to the listing is a Razor expression that is evaluated when MVC uses the view to generate a response. When I call the view method in the controller's index method, MVC locates the myview.cs HTML view file and asks the Razor View engine to parse the file's content. Razor looks for expressions like the one I added in the listing and processes them. In this example, processing the expression means inserting the value assigned to the ViewBag.greeting property and the action method into the view. There's nothing special about the property name greeting. You could replace this with any property name and it would work the same, just as long as the name you use in the controller matches the name you use in the view. You can pass multiple data values from your controller to the view by assigning values to more than one property. You can see the effect of these changes by starting the project.